Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay
everyone?
calm.
What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody just calm down.
Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. A different show today. We've done this twice before now, but we're going to try it again. The brainchild of the great man himself, Poland, who likes to talk, all things culture war, all things crazy that's going on out there. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's some crazy stuff happening at the moment out there. But before we jump in, let's do what we always do and just say hello to everyone who's chosen to join us here today. We've got Mo Biggs here. Great to see you. Early and Surly. Jim Cox is here. Hockey. Antoine Dennison is here. Great to see you, my friend. VIP in the house. Todd Struth. He says, hail Michael Bancroft. Hail Mr. Struth himself. Mo says, hail Poland. We're still waiting on Poland. I can't believe it. I mean, this is the guy who sets these things up for us. Super agent, man of mystery. But we'll be waiting for him in a sec. Black Rose Comics is here. Good stuff, Comics Gator. Nerd is the word. Edwin. And Black Rose Comics. Great to see you guys here. Yeah, we're going to be joined by our lovely guest who we've met before, the fantastic Elizabeth Rogliani. How you going, Elizabeth?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, how have you been since it's been like a couple of months now?
Yeah, it's been a while. I thought you were going to ask me since Tuesday, since the whole
Oh, we'll get
election
into
day.
that. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
It's like I did a stream on that night, and I was like, "Is anything interesting happening tonight? Anything at all?" It's pretty insane. But before we jump into that, because I also want to wait. Hopefully, Poland will be here shortly, because I know he has a lot he wants to talk about on this topic. But since then you started your own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's going well. I didn't post today. I normally do post on Fridays, but I just felt this week was going to be very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like anything I pre-planned on Monday was going to be totally irrelevant today.
Look,
so
I mean, let's just jump into it. What the hell is happening? What is this?
I don't know. I mean, it is reminding me of elections back home, to be honest.
This is what I was saying to Poland. I'm like, surely you must recognize some of this, because this is some of the things that we're seeing happening. Is insane, isn't it?
Yes, and I remember I was watching the elections on Tuesday night, and everything seemed to be going really well. I was like, oh, they're calling Florida. Donald Trump is winning in the states. Things seem to be pretty normal. And I started to get very tired. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to go to sleep, and I'll probably wake up to the results in the morning. Even though for months I've been thinking we're not going to get the results on election night or even the next day. We're going to go for days and even to court. That was my thought coming into it. But then on election day, I kind of forgot about my previous thoughts. And I thought, oh, this is all going well. I'm just going to go to sleep. And surprise, surprise, in the morning, I found out that they stopped counting the ballots. All the states that were going to Trump suddenly switched to Biden. They were finding ballots everywhere. And I was like, what the heck is going on? This reminds me of the elections back home. I was like, guys, is this the first time for you? But I am familiar with this territory.
Yeah, so for anyone who isn't aware, Elizabeth is from Venezuela originally, and we all know what's happened there. On the last show that we had with Elizabeth, we got into that a bit, and it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And it all seemed to change do you remember when Biden came out and did that speech? And he came out onto stage. I call it the Jeep speech. Every car, and he has rallies with cars. Every car was a Jeep. How weird is that? What was up with that?
Strange.
But
coincidence.
He came out and he was like, "It's going great. we're on track to win all these states, and it'll all be decided soon. And everyone, I mean, all the kind of streams that I was jumping around on were just going, huh?
Yeah,
What's going on? What? And then that was, I think, the time when they stopped counting. And
exactly.
this is the weird thing. Why did all these states just stop counting? Has
Hmm.
anyone answered that yet? Does
No,
anyone know that?
I posed that same question, and I do have some Democrat friends that think everything is normal, and I tell them, you know what, you are just too pure. Um, and I don't mean that as an insult to them at all. I think they're just very honest and correct people that just can't register that there's a possibility of something shady happening. So you're like, oh, it's just they probably took a break, or whoever was in charge of the polling station, they just decided to say, I'm like, really? In all these states, they decided to take a break. In all the places that Trump was winning by a reasonable margin, they were like, break now. And then suddenly they find ballots in the middle of the night, at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, all for Biden. Um, I think if someone doesn't want to see that, they're rationalizing and they're just kind of burying their head in the sand. It's super obvious that there's something off here.
It's for me, I think everyone reasonable would say, look, if Biden won legitimately,
Hmm.
then he won.
Yeah,
And that's what, everyone has to accept that. Doesn't matter who you voted for. But if there's shenanigans going on, then they need to be uncovered. They need to be
right.
investigated. And then systems need to be put into place to prevent this happening again, or perhaps courts get involved even in this election and stuff like that, because you can't have these massive doubts. And it's so, this is like the media going to bat right now for
Hmm.
the the system, and the Biden campaign is, I mean, it's actually pretty scary,
Yeah,
because all I think all most reasonable people are asking for are answers. That's all. People want answers, because you can't have a president, for 4 years, they're being the head of the executive branch, with all these questions just left unanswered, and you're like, oh, don't worry about it, it's all fine. It
yeah.
can't go on like that.
I just see a sort of hypocrisy, because if it was the opposite, if it was the other way around, if all these swing states, or even democratic states, because the states that are sort of flipping right now, some of them have historically been Republican.
Hmm.
They're just, they're now starting to swift demographics and whatnot, like Georgia, for example. But imagine a situation where these states were going for Biden by a large margin at the
Hmm.
end of the night of November 3rd. And then suddenly all of them decided to stop counting because whatever, they felt tired, whatever the excuse is. And they all start counting. And then when people wake up, they just say that, oh, we just found all these Trump votes everywhere. And suddenly all the states shift to Trump. It just, Democrats and the media would be outraged. They would be, screaming from the rooftops. Right now, they're like, no, 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 there's nothing happening. How can you even say you're just being sore losers and whatnot? But I think people, they're just trying to get into your heads if they're calling you a sore loser, so you stop even questioning things. But there's obviously something happening.
Well, it goes beyond that, because the media now, it's become clear. The media and social media. Let's put
Hmm.
sort of they're sort of maybe two sides of the same coin. The kind of the way that we all get our information.
Yeah.
The amount of power they have is becoming evident here. So if there is an instance that there is something shady going on with, say, for instance, those ballots in, was it Michigan, that they appeared in, the 100-something?
Yes, Michigan, Pennsylvania as well now.
Okay.
They're
You
all
know,
having odd things happen.
so what happened was they said, "Oh, we're stopping counting," and then in the middle of the night, when no one was looking, all these ballots came in for Biden, like a whole bunch
Yeah.
of them, and and if anyone wants to ask a question about that, which I think is a perfectly reasonable
Right.
question, the media can just say, no, we're not talking about that. And then on social media, they can ban you
They
and
can
block
say it.
you. They can ban the
Exactly.
president from asking
Yeah.
questions. So how does anyone actually ask a question about this? That's the really scary stuff. Because if it does come out that, look, what happened is, for whatever reason, they'd counted all these ballots for Biden, they'd put them all in a big bin, and they just hadn't put them on the tally yet. And they, for some reason, decided to do that at 4 o'clock in the morning. If that is the answer, then be transparent about that. Don't stop people from asking the question in the first place.
Right.
That's the real dangerous thing that I'm seeing, from here.
Yeah. And also, the thing is that it's a combination of things. It's not just that, which is already weird by itself. But for example, in Pennsylvania, Republican poll watchers saying they're being barred from even observing the counts. Then the Trump campaign winning a court battle, basically saying you can go and observe. The Trump campaign people can go in and watch the vote being counted, and then still not being let in. And then Democrats appealing that decision in the court, saying no, actually they shouldn't be able to come in and watch. Why?
Yeah, why? What
Why?
possible reason could there be that
Exactly.
you don't want watchers coming in to observe it from the Republican side? What is the excuse? Has anyone attempted to answer that? Are they saying, well, they're disruptive, or?
That's the one that well, someone said that Republican poll watchers weren't, oh, they probably kicked them out because they were being, rowdy or whatever. But I didn't find that as a satisfactory response, saying like all of them were being rowdy, and why did they have to go to court for this? Why did the Democrats appeal? That's when they kind of run out of answers and they're like, well, I don't know why that is. I've actually talked to Democrats that are like, I don't know. They try to make an excuse for the, middle of the night stopping the count. Not good excuses, but at least they attempt. For this one, no one can tell me why the Democrats are appealing a decision by the court saying that, yes, GOP campaign people can go in and watch. And Democrats are like, no, they shouldn't be. And they're fighting that in the courts. How does that make sense?
Mo in the chat says, this has already been debunked. The locals are being accused of malfeasance already, and they did an investigation and found themselves innocent. I mean, that's the joke, but that seems to be what's going to happen. The media does this all the time.
Yeah.
They say, so someone will say, so let's say there's video evidence. Where's another one here? Jim Cox saying dead folks are voting. Yeah. So you've got people on the rolls who have confirmed to vote in this current election who were born in 1850. And then you say, okay, well, that is evidence of voter fraud. But then the media will just turn around and say, no, there's no evidence of voter fraud.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's like end of story. The end of discussion. Closed off. Now, if you want to discuss it, you're censored, you're kicked off, they cut off the president's speech because they've made their ruling already on themselves.
Yeah. And there's no way, they don't debunk it with real facts. They just say it's not true, period. There's plenty of people coming out, individuals saying, I couldn't vote, someone else voted for me, my grandmother who died voted, this person that wasn't living here got all these reports coming from everywhere. And all of these people are lying. Something is definitely going on. And then it's also hypocritical, I find, because in 2016, when Trump won the election, the media spent 4 years after that saying there was Russian interference with no evidence anywhere. Even I was against Trump in 2016, and even that, I was like, I mean, maybe, but I just couldn't see the evidence anywhere, so just didn't follow up with that. But the fact that they went to the lengths that they went to try to prove that was true, but this time they're completely ignoring all of the information, all of the evidence of actual fraud or shadiness. It's so obvious that there's a bias here.
It's yeah. When I think back on that, a lot of people started off with the position, well, look, let's investigate. If there's smoke, maybe there's fire. Let's get in there and let's find this out, because we need to know that the president is legitimate.
Yeah.
If the president is not legitimate, that is, I mean, the ramifications for that are monumental. You know that firsthand.
Yeah.
And now just this, yeah, it's like eyes closed while insane things are happening. And like you said, there's so many points, there's so many vector points of strangeness going on. Vilned here points out that says software in 30 states may have changed 3% of the vote in favor of Biden. It was proven to have moved 6,000 votes to Biden in one single Michigan county. That's one county, 6,000 votes. And we're talking some of these states, Biden's ahead now in the count by 30,000, less than 30,000.
Less, sometimes 4,000 in Georgia right now. I'm looking at
4,000 in Georgia.
screen.
I mean,
Georgia,
this
which was a definite
business.
win for Trump last night, and suddenly it's flipping to. The thing is, I said last night, if those states start flipping to Biden, to me, it's a proof that there's some kind of fraud, because they're already at 95, over 90% with Trump with significant lead. Unless they're getting some, like, how are the votes so inconsistent in the way they're being counted? That just makes no sense to me. And yeah, what he said about those votes changing for Trump, it's from a machine that has some kind of glitch that was used in 47 different counties in Michigan. So, I mean, if the machine had the same glitch, it can definitely have a big impact in Michigan and the rest of the states, because that machine is being used in other states as well.
Yeah. This is like, my wife is pulling her hair out, because she's just like, how is this happening? How is this a thing? Like, I know from my, my perspective here in Australia, our voting, I didn't ever remember any accusations ever of any kind of fraud or shenanigans or anything. Obviously, it's so much easier for us to manage because we have such a smaller population. It's God, what is it? It's less than 1/10 of the population of the US. But even so, there's always a vested interest someone might have to want to rig something,
right?
But but yeah, so she's just looking at this, like saying, how is this allowed to happen? And I'm as well. I'm looking at, like, all these states have different rules. There's people bringing in ballots. What was here? Shane talked about this guy bringing in ballots in a trolley in the middle of the night. I mean, how is this allowed to occur? It boggles the mind.
Question.
And now I saw in Philadelphia that you can the ballots can arrive in the mail for up to the 12th or something.
That's ridiculous. But they apparently some kind of appeal was made, and now they're going to count the votes that arrived after 8 p.m. separate from the ones that arrived before. So that's, at least there's some advancement happening, I just want to tell you a little bit of how this election reminds me of, all the elections that I had to live through. One, obviously, it was the polls always showed that Chavez was going to win. They always were projecting that. And that's a tactic that a lot of countries that have experience with this kind of corruption are familiar with. They just have the polls saying a certain thing, just because even if the polls are lying, when the day actually comes, people don't contest the results as much, because then you're like kind of like, well, the polls are saying this anyway, so I shouldn't be surprised. That's one
Yep.
thing. Then the day of, when we're watching ourselves when, you know, my party win, and suddenly they're like, well, we're having technical difficulties. Everyone go to sleep and whatever, we're gonna stop counting now. And so they would stop counting, everyone would just go to sleep, some people would stay awake, and then they would just start finding all these boxes with ballots for Chavez, and then the results would completely swing the next day. But they never took so many days to actually say who won. Actually, usually it was the next day. Then also, right now they're basically saying that they're going to put together lists of people that help Trump win or get elected or work in his campaign and whatnot. Let me just read what it's called, because it's like
This is
like,
AOC, yeah?
yeah,
Talking
they're
about this.
the Trump Accountability Project. So it's basically trying to dox people that had any involvement in these groups. And I'm like, that they used to do that too back home. It was called La Lista Tascon, like the Tascon list. And anyone that had any involvement in the opposition party or like any names, they would just put them on that list, and it would make life more difficult for those people. So it's just like interesting how they are behaving so similarly to, you know, authoritarians.
Oh, well, we've known that they've been authoritarians for a long time now. It's sort of like the, you know, rules for thee, not for me, by any means necessary. We've been seeing that across the board. That's just not just in politics, you know, in our little sphere here in comic books. We've seen that for a long time. All, you know, in all little things. It is shocking, and that's their number one thing. Like, they will accuse the other side of being authoritarian fascists while they, you know, go through that playbook line by line. Camillo brings up a point here about the secret watermarks on the ballots. Everyone's heard this. I have no way of verifying that. That would be cool.
It
but,
would
you
be
know,
cool.
having watched this election, I don't know.
I personally would love that to be true. It would be like a thing for the movies. But I've seen it everywhere, and I'm like, until I see it, and if it's real, we're all gonna see it, obviously. Until I see it, I'm not gonna, you know, go around telling people that this is what's gonna happen, because I'm not sure. That I'm also afraid of controlled opposition, or of people kind of calming everyone down, saying like, "Oh, it's gonna be fine. We have this plan," so people don't go out and voice their concern. That's what I'm afraid of with those kinds of rumors. I'm hoping it's true. Trust me, I would love it for it to be true, but I also want people to raise their voices and speak out, and not rely on some kind of plan that I have no proof.
People need to understand the gravity of the situation, and it's shocking to me that the people who voted Biden aren't joining hand in hand with the other, how many is it, 70 million or so people who voted for Trump, and saying, we want Biden to win, but we want it to be fair.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot have a situation where there's doubt, massive amounts of doubt hanging over a presidency. It looks like they're not going to get the Senate, so I think they also lost a number of seats in the House. So it's not as if, oh, Biden's the president and now we get to, you know, roll out our agenda. That's not going to happen. So you know, it just blows my mind that they're not, you know, kind of standing right beside everyone who's saying this is wrong. I think there actually was a guy, he put out a video on Twitter saying like, I'm a registered Democrat, I'm a poll watcher, and what I'm saying here is wrong. There's corruption and fraud happening here. It's just very weird that, you know, people are so quick to, like, you know, condemn anyone else for things that they'll just look the other way if it happens to benefit their side. Exactly.
I did see that, and I've been sharing all of the information that I find on my Instagram, and I do find it very interesting how there's still people that are looking at all of that And I did a little poll on my Instagram this morning, and I just asked people, do you think there's something going on? I didn't even say it's rigged or not. I asked, do you think it's shady, or do you think it's totally normal, like nothing to see here? And there's still people that are answering it's totally normal, nothing to see here. And I'm like, what are you smoking? Because I would love some of that. Because are you serious? You're seeing all the videos, people calling out, people saying, and you're gonna tell me that it's totally normal. I could understand someone saying, well, there's cheating going on, but not enough to move the needle. And I have heard that from some Democrat friends. But the ones that are saying it's totally normal, I mean, I just think they're trying to,
it
close
does
their
boggle
eyes.
the mind. So there's Steve here saying it's a coup. So then you can understand people saying, look, that's going too far. It's not a coup. So that's their opinion. But for anyone to say this is totally normal, I mean, that is patently, observably incorrect. It is just not normal. It is not normal for all these states to stop counting.
Exactly.
It's not normal even to have all these mail-in ballots, not the absentee ballots, all these untold millions of mail-in ballots that are just seemingly floating around in the air. They're finding them on the street. They're finding them in places. They're finding them in bins. They're finding them everywhere. I mean, they just seem to come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
This is not normal by any stretch of the word.
And that they're all for Biden. All the ones that they seem to find that swing the election or the state are all for Biden. None of them are for Trump. And, the excuse I hear is, well, Trump pushed his supporters to vote in person. So, of course, all of the votes that are coming in that are being counted in person, they're all for Trump. But then the ones that are coming in by mail, they're all for Biden. But it doesn't explain the percentage that is for Biden, because not 100% of the votes that are coming in by mail are for Biden, or 100% of the votes that are in person are for Trump. It's a little bit of a mix. Yes, there's majority in person for Trump and majority of, but it's not the 100% or even 90%. It we look more like 60% of the mail-in votes would be from Democrats, not 90 to more percent.
Yeah, we ran the numbers at one point where we looked at how many people were left to vote in, I think it was North Carolina or maybe it was Georgia. And, we counted up, okay, well, how many votes are left to go? How many votes does each person have? And then how many of the remaining, presumably mail-in ballots that they're still counting would have to go for Biden for him to win? And it was like you said, it was up there in the 90s for him to get in the win. Yet here we are now, he's taken the lead. Yeah. It's not normal. And I think you don't have to go on and say it's 100% absolutely fraud and it's rigged and it was stolen and everything. That should be decided by investigators and a process, a transparent process, and all that sort of stuff. But to say it's normal is, that I don't understand that. We have a comment here by Chucky who says, you guys be touching on the never Trumpers working at Fox deciding to call Arizona for Biden extremely early. That, you can't say that was normal.
I don't understand that one.
How much had they counted by then? And then
I actually think Arizona might go to Trump. That's my belief. Maybe I have a lot of faith, but I think Arizona might go to Trump still. And the fact that they haven't even they haven't said, actually, I'm sorry, I recalled it. They just left it there. That's strange. I actually have Fox News turned on right now because I wanted to watch Tucker Carlson before we spoke. He didn't really touch on much of the fraud. He did touch on it a little bit, but he did say that they shouldn't have done that at Fox News. Say that Arizona went for Biden. And it's strange because it was just Fox News and Associated Press. But CNN hasn't done it, MSNBC hasn't done it, just Fox News and AP.
How bizarre, how bizarre. We are joined by our friend, our mutual friend. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Christian.
What's
you had to
going on?
relocate. Where are you here?
I'm at my parents'. I was
Oh,
called
my
home.
goodness. You were
So-
called back.
I was. Thankfully, it wasn't anything too urgent, but
All right.
I got a text.
Thank you for joining us. We've been having a really cool discussion here, and the chat is getting in on it as well. It's like I said, I know that there's there's things happening out there where even sites like this with 1,000 subscribers are getting nuked because you're saying talking about the election, but I mean you got to talk about this stuff because like we just said, this is not normal. Whether or not Biden won or Trump won, whether or not it's a coup, like for a coup it would have to be, I think, organized. There would have to be people planning and organizing some sort of rig. But like if it was just, are you familiar with I think they're called starlings, the birds. They're these birds that fly in these flocks of millions, and they fly in unison. They don't have a leader that makes them fly around.
Okay.
What happens is each individual bird has its way that it wants to go, and everyone else sort of does their own thing, and they all go in the same direction. And I think that's more likely what has perhaps happened here.
Yeah,
These
that
like
they
postal
basically
workers.
all these interests had the same goal, and they sort of without knowing
So
coordinated.
we saw that Veritas video of the postal worker saying, what was it, to not deliver the Trump ballots or something like that. There was something going on there that Veritas exposed, and that guy is actually now under investigation by the Department of Justice. I saw that earlier.
Yeah, and I think what we've been seeing the last few months is that there's a group of people that will think it's virtuous of them to do anything to stop Donald Trump, because they perceive him as Hitler, or even worse than Hitler, because actually there's a podcaster called Sam Harris that basically said Trump is worse than Hitler.
We've talked about Sam Harris recently, how that is just the strangest example of derangement syndrome.
He can't get over it.
I was shocked when I read that. But the fact is that these people believe Trump is so evil that it's fine to stop them in whatever means necessary, cheating, whatever, because they see themselves as we're going to be the virtuous ones if we cheat to take him away. So there might be a lot of people that are actually working in the election that are doing their just individual thing, and it's contributing to Trump losing a couple thousand votes here, a couple thousand votes there, because in reality, the election is close. So when people say it's not moving the needle at all, the election is close. So that means they could be in different counties, just 1,000 votes being, thrown away here, 1,000 dead people voting on here. And then, that all those numbers end up adding up.
I haven't spoken to you, Christian, I don't think, since all this has started. I'll definitely not about it anyway. What's your take on it?
I've been doing this. I've been hunkering down.
Now none of us know who you voted for, obviously.
No,
we don't need to say that. But
needless to say, a lot of my friends and acquaintances, on my Facebook, they definitely know who I voted for. So, yeah, I might have come out pretty strong there on that last day. I just went ahead and just put it out there.
Yeah.
I think the one that set the most people off was the Babylon Bee article I posted that said, confessional set up next to the voting booth for all the Catholics voting for pro-choice Democrats. And I got
Wasn't
torn
appreciated?
apart. They didn't appreciate that, So I came out pretty hard that last day, and there was a homily I heard a few weeks ago, funny enough. And there was this concept the deacon was talking about called being morally wounded. And he was citing it. He wasn't talking about politics. He was talking about doctors, actually. And he was saying that doctors in recent years, the reason they've quit the most is that they feel morally wounded. Like the way they have to practice medicine now, they're wounded every day when they go and they have to interact with their patients. So that's the reason. It's not pay. It's not all these other things. And of course, that all ties back into the ACA from 2009. But he was talking about going through life broadly, being morally wounded and having to always repress things that you actually think, for instance, or the way you actually feel. So that really resonated with me. So the last couple of weeks, I have been coming out full bore,
Throwing caution to the wind. Speaking of
Caution
throwing
to the
caution to the wind, let's invite John onto this stream.
John.
What's up, guys? I'm sorry, I was doing my own thing over there. I didn't see that you invited me so long ago, but I'm here now.
That's all right. John, meet Elizabeth. Elizabeth is originally from Venezuela.
Very nice to meet you, Elizabeth.
Hello. Nice to meet you too.
Now, John, remind me, where are you from originally?
I will be her neighbor. I'm Colombian,
Okay.
so I know all about the awful crisis that we have to look forward to now in our own U.S. of A. So,
Do you think it's going to get to that?
yeah, no, it's already getting to that. Because when
Carla.
because when you when you see the kind of fraud that they're pulling right now, that is, I have a lot of Mexican friends that are like, oh, that feels just like it's home. It's like, no, it's worse. It's worse. When socialists and far leftists grab power, they never let go of it. They make sure to never let go of it. They make sure to never be met with any real opposition, and they make sure to never be stripped down of their power, because their ideas are not only very unpopular, but they don't work. So once they grab power, they have to cling on to it however they can. Yeah. So something like what happened in Venezuela can definitely happen here.
Yeah, yes. You vote them in once, but it's very hard to remove them after.
You'll never get rid of it. Exactly. That's what really worries me.
This is what we're seeing in companies like in comic books, John, as well. They get into the industry, they get into the companies, and they just, even though they're a small percentage, they take over the whole direction of the company, and you can't get rid of them. You can't get rid of them. They're just like, they get in every single level, and the only way to get rid of them is just like fire everyone. And yeah, if this is like, it is happening on a governmental level, yeah, it's really dire situation. I like the comment that Vilned had here. We all noticed this. They were talking for a long time about how there's going to be this red mirage, but then the blue wave is going to come after, when all the mailing ballots, and that would be what it seems like would happen. What has happened.
That's what you call grooming.
They're preparing us. They're preparing us to, that's what's going to happen. So when it does happen, we don't have any suspicions about it.
And the polls are, the polls said he was way ahead, so it all makes sense. It all makes sense.
I am so happy that you brought up the polls, because I'm going to bring up this. I'm not going to play the video. I just want to bring up the graphic from a recent Tim Pool video. Here, where he's looking at the. These are the states, the poll numbers, the average poll numbers, and then what actually has been counted, and the average is 7 points off. Across all states, across all 50 states. So 7 points wrong. Some of these states are down in the 20s. There's a whole bunch of them here who are in their high teens. So their pollsters got it wrong in, say, Oklahoma. Where is it here? Pennsylvania.
Wisconsin, I think they said he was down wrong. 17 points wrong in Wisconsin. And that's like a less than 1 point right now.
Well, let me ask you something, Poland. Were you ever polled?
No.
Exactly.
So this is the accusation.
Thomas Sowell has a great quote about that.
Eric has it right here. They're grooming, right? They're getting you ready.
Yep. Exactly.
They're letting you know. Look, no, the polls. They've made the polls so monumentally wrong this election. They're actually way more wrong this election than they were. Even if Biden wins, they're way more wrong in this election than they were in 2016. This is part of this program to get you all ready that, he's definitely going to lose. So when it happens, don't ask questions.
I have questions.
You still have questions?
Should I call on you?
You're just...
I call on you.
So Trump this time got a lot more votes than last time, and I can't understand that, because I personally switched, and I knew a lot of people who did as well, and I know this is a trend, with the walkaway movement, etc. So he got 63 million votes in 2016. Now he's up to, I think, over 69 million or even 70 million. But Biden lost a lot of the votes that Hillary Clinton got in 2016. So Trump gained with women, with all minorities, with LGBTQ. He gained in Miami-Dade, which is already very liberal. He gained New York. Biden lost in all those places.
Let
But
me
yet
stop you
he's
right there.
winning.
Let me stop you
He's
right there
winning.
because you're wrong. Because
I'm
Joe
wrong?
Biden outperformed everyone with dead people.
You're right. I was like, I'm wrong. Yeah, that's true. They should have campaigned in cemeteries.
Elizabeth is like, I'm
That's
never
great.
wrong.
No.
This is where Trump went wrong. He didn't hold any rallies at the cemeteries. There
Exactly.
are lots
That's right.
of cemeteries.
I
He needed
texted
That's true.
Elizabeth. I texted Elizabeth the day of, early on election day, because I saw the Miami-Dade returns. I was like, "That's it. It's game over."
Yeah.
Because
So-
last time that went 30 points to Hillary. This time it was a 7-point, little less than 7-point
Yes,
gap.
8%.
And I was like, if that continues throughout the whole country, it's over.
And it
guess
makes
what
no
we
sense to
can-
me that it didn't happen. He gained with all these minorities. He gained in Miami. He gained in New York. He gained in all these places. And you're going to tell me that Biden gained in Pennsylvania, where he said he was going to get rid of fracking and all these things. I don't know. I'm
So
just
it's look,
believing it.
he crushed it in Ohio, and I'm not hearing any grumblings from Ohio in terms of shenanigans.
Yeah.
But all these other states, which you would imagine, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, that are sort of, in the same vein, where there are, just evidence of all these different points of weird stuff happening. But Trump is being beaten in those states, but he crushed Ohio. This is a head scratcher. But I just want to round back to that point you said about how he's won with all the minorities and LGBT and all that stuff. Does that mean this is the end of the Trump is a white supremacist narrative? It's all gone now? Like they're gonna walk that back?
No, now they're saying that it's minorities that have internalized their oppression. So that's what's happening now. Anything that you do, it's critical theory for the win.
Yeah, self-hating Hispanics and blacks.
Yeah, for the most part, now they're saying Cubans are trying to be white supremacists and whatnot because Cubans aren't like brown Puerto Ricans. Now that there's a whole conversation.
Yeah, Cubans are white now, I think.
Well, the thing is, and I told everyone, Latin America is a continent of immigrants as well. There's people that are Black in Latin America. There's people that are Asian. There's people that are Middle Eastern. There's people that immigrated from Europe. So the fact is, you can't put them in a racial box. You can't put Latin Americans in a racial box because we don't have the same racial experience. We do have a common language, but to say, people that are Black and Cuban are going to have the same experience as a blue-eyed Cuban is ridiculous if we're talking about race, So now, of course, they're trying to point that out, saying, well, there's white Cubans. So, of course, they want to be white, like Anglo whites, because there's like a whole thing there. But they want to achieve the more whiteness, so they're going to vote for Trump. That's a conversation that's happening on Twitter, which is ridiculous. It's always about race. Always about race. You can't think, maybe the Cubans just didn't like the idea of socialism, which was being pushed. No. It's a racial thing.
I think one thing very important to understand is that these revolutions that have happened in our countries, because they have, you have Cuba, Venezuela, you have Nicaragua, you have Colombia. It didn't really work out for them, but it's always pinning us against each other on the basis of class. So that's the thing that they've exploited the most is class, because there's usually been a very wide gap of inequality in terms of wealth in Latin America.
That's what they do in Uruguay. We're all the same race in Uruguay.
Right.
We don't have variety, but they are dividing us with class.
By class, exactly. So what they're exploiting in America is the history of race, right? And is the race problem that's been here and it's never been addressed really properly. So that's what they're using, and they're traumatizing people. You have from the beginning, from the whole Black Lives Matter thing. I always said, I do believe that there is problems with police using extreme force, but you could disagree with me. But they are really traumatizing Black people into thinking that if they go out, they're going to get shot by a cop. So how could you blame them if they're so anxious and and they're basically destroying shit? How could you blame them?
Yeah, I mean, it's they use the emotional arguments, which sometimes eclipses facts and what's actually going on, and
That's absolutely
pragmatism.
right.
You kind of have people thinking with their emotions, and so they don't make rational decisions, unfortunately, and they really exploit that with minorities, and especially with the Black community because of the history that this country has. But
The
it's critical race. It's Marxism at the end of the day that they're doing.
in the I think it was the 30s, they realized that socialism would not take in America. It wasn't going to happen because of the massive upward mobility of the middle class. And so people were just not buying it. They would just like people. What's that famous line? Americans just see themselves as temporary poor. They're about to become a millionaire, and that's what set them apart. That's why they wouldn't get on board with the socialism, because they wanted to own their own labor, and so probably that was the problem. There is people thought, oh well, socialism is gone. Not realizing, no, what they're going to do now, and what they did is they switched it to race, and that's where that whole cultural Marxism kind of thing comes into it. The whole the
that's critical
intersectionality
theory.
and everything, critical theory. It's all baked, all part of the same cake.
Born out of the Frankfurt School, they just switched the whole class struggle for race or gender struggle. They're gonna have all these people think, well, maybe I can't make it in the United States because of my race or my gender. So in a way, they're doing that whole class struggle thing, but they're convincing people that they can't make it because historically the person who's made it is the white man, but women can't do it. Black men can't do it. Black women can't do it. Any other minority can't do it. It's only these people over here. So in a way, it's the same thing with the class struggle. They're just using race and using gender as a way to kind of convince people, the system is set up for you to fail, when that's not really the reality. But when you're looking back at history, it does seem that way, but that's not. But just because of who was kind of going forward in the country, but it's not that there's laws that are preventing anyone else from succeeding.
Right. The only laws that actually discriminate are affirmative action.
Exactly.
And that's not to my benefit at all.
No.
So
they're trying to. They aren't they getting that thing done in California where they're trying to
I think it lost.
take
It failed.
back? It failed.
It
They'll
failed.
be back. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. That's in little bits. They don't give
they'll
up.
find a way. They'll find a way.
They'll find a way for sure.
Just
Well,
like
right now in my state in Arizona, they just passed Proposition 208, which basically taxes. They raise taxes for families that make up to $500,000 a year, and single people who make $250,000 a year, and they're saying that it's for education. What they don't realize is that a lot of those people are just going to leave and take their jobs with them, which makes people actually pay less taxes because they're not employed. Not only are they taking away the rich people, and they're also increasing the taxes on their properties, and it's all for education. So when they sell it as it's for the kids, who's going to say no? So like I was saying in my live stream, the first thing that came to my mind when I read that proposition is that meme of Michael Jordan that says "fuck them kids" at the bottom. That's exactly what I thought when I was voting for that.
They do the same thing here. We get all of our gender theory stuff rammed into our schools as anti-bullying programs. So if you're against them, well, you want kids to be bullied? That's how it works. That's
what they did with
why
they did the same thing with the Violence Against Women Act as well, where essentially you have these kangaroo courts on college campuses now. If someone accuses you of rape, you're done. It's like, how could you be against Violence Against Women Act? How could you? Oh my gosh, the indignation.
I mean, the Prop 16 was, the name I think was affirmative action. And I think a lot of people just didn't read it and didn't even know what it was. They just thought, oh, affirmative action, that's good. But I think it lost because there was a campaign to explain to people what it was. and I was just listening to that on the news. But there were people that were going around and explaining to people what it was. But I think a lot of people just voted for it because they have no idea what it is, because they frame it in this way that sounds nice. Just like you said, they were like, well, it's an affirmative action proposition. Would
it have allowed people to have like white only restaurants and stuff like that?
Legally,
so maybe
yes.
It would have been a good thing that it passed and people start doing this so that people freak out and realize the seriousness of this, what they're actually advocating, what intersectionality actually is.
Yeah.
Exactly. The results of it. Like, strip away all your silly motivations about equity and all that sort of stuff. It is about discriminating people on the basis of race.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Michael,
what they're advocating.
Do you remember we had a conversation a while back talking about some of the groups that came out of 2016, 2015, and one of them was the race realist, like the most extreme portion of the alt-right. The race realists are like the reverse Flash of SJW intersectionalists. They really are, because essentially they're like, okay, you want to frame everything with race? Well, we'll do that. We'll take the numbers and we'll look at it. And when you start doing it on the population level, some things don't look that pretty. Once you like eliminate the individual completely. And so those guys had all these conclusions about certain races based on statistics and whatnot. I, of course, don't agree with it. But what I'm saying is that when you start framing things with that lens, with everything, you're not going to like some conclusions you come to. And that's just,
You're talking about the IQ thing. And yeah, it's right. And this is the monster they created. This is exactly the monster they created.
The best part of that, I don't know if you saw this, Elizabeth, that fantastic video, that comedian where it's the SJW and the racist best friends.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
And the best part of that was when the guy, the SJW says white people are privileged, and the guy leans back and says it is a privilege to be white. Like that was.
I had the same exact thought. I had the same impact. That's the best part.
That was intersectionality distilled. I love that.
Yeah.
Welcome, Blue.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hello.
I'm glad to be here.
What's up, man?
No, how you, man?
Good.
You're a bit soft to hear.
I'm trying not to be harsh. Anyway, hello, Beth. How are you doing?
Hi.
Oh my goodness. What's Mo saying? Re-education isn't always as bad as it sounds. Michael could use some. He fell asleep on the day they taught how to try.
Yes, I'm missing some kind of internal joke here.
I don't think.
Yeah, I have a thing going where I keep putting out, when I draw hands, they turn out all wonky, and the chat likes to make fun of me because of that.
Or anything.
Okay, I see. So what do you guys think? Let's make a prediction. What do you guys is going to think about? What do you guys think is going to happen with these elections?
Look, the numbers obviously don't look good for Trump, but at the same time, if the Supreme Court comes out and is able to say, ballots counted after this certain time cannot be verified to be legitimate legal ballots, that could really, throw a massive monkey wrench into things. But it's so difficult to say, which is why I think it's clever that a lot of the news organizations haven't called it, because Trump does need a lot of these states to be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. So I'm really. It's so crazy. What day is it today? Friday, and I'm like, I don't know.
I'm pretty exhausted. I have to say, this whole thing is like pretty it's just mental, because I haven't really moved from my apartment. But
okay.
It's exhausting.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Like, today's the first day I've gotten in my car, really. So,
what's your opinion, Elizabeth?
I have faith that. You might call me crazy, but I think the result I want is going to happen. I mean, I wanted it to just be done on election night, to be honest, because this is I just wanted a break from politics for a while. But I did think that this was going to go to the courts, and that was I believe that was going to happen. I wanted it to be done on Wednesday. But in reality, I knew that we were going to go to the courts, really. I've been saying this for months.
It didn't
People have been
matter if
asking
it
me,
was. Yeah, it
What?
didn't matter if it was like a little bit more Trump or a little bit more Biden. If it was within like if it was, within 100,000 votes here and there, it was always going to the court.
for sure. For sure. And I've been saying for months, people have been asking me, what do you think? Do you think Trump is going to win? And I've been saying, yes, he's going to win, but they're going to try to steal it, or unless they cheat. And I've been saying it for a while, so this isn't really surprising to me. But it is surprising how obvious it is and how people are refusing to
Blatant.
see it.
Brazen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they've obviously been preparing for this. They use COVID as the premise to get the universal mail-ins in all these states. In North Carolina, they had the Board of Electors overturn state legislature law, the law that was on the books, and they settled. Two parties that were both Democrats settled to change that there. What's honestly surprises me the most is how many states, was it like 7 right now, that are up in the air? I thought it would be Pennsylvania, maybe Michigan, that were in question going into the election night. I didn't think Georgia and South Carolina would be, and definitely not Arizona, would be up there too. That's what surprises me. So I still have faith, much like you, Elizabeth, but it's gonna be really tough. Like, and there's probably gonna have to be a full audit of some of these votes, as opposed to just recounting them, because you're gonna have to go through there and try and segregate them, and
It's
even with the
rough.
even if the Alito decision, if they went and like back postmarked things, it's gonna be really hard to prove that those came in late. So
that leads to my comment, which is from voting in person. I know that they separated my name and my number from my ballot before my ballot gets turned in. If all of these things that are back postmarked get turned in, how do you separate them again? You don't. So you have to have if everything's found to be invalid, if these states are found to be engaging in monkey business, then the forensics by which to undo it is going to be gone. And so they have to rerun the election.
Is that a possibility?
that'll be a trip.
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure.
It could be. Everybody would have to vote in person.
That is so true. Like if they say that we have evidence of widespread dodginess, there's no possible way that we can put the egg back in. It's been scrambled.
Yeah.
So what are they have two options. We either move ahead with whoever appears to have won, and that's going to be under question now, and essentially be called illegitimate by everyone, or we do it again. I mean, that is terrifying. How do we end up in this? Well, you guys, not me, but you guys end up in this nightmare situation.
Under Georgia law, they have to have runoffs anyway, because their law is that you have to win by more than 50%. So for their 2 Senate seats, both seats are having to be run off. Whereas in other states, it's just whoever has the majority of whatever percentages there are. But they need a 50%, so they take the top 2 and run a runoff election. So yeah, it's possible to have to rerun the presidential election in 7 different states, because that's it. And considering how many ballots suddenly showed up only for Biden and marked, where the entire ballot is blank except for the presidential candidate, and it's only for Biden for however many hundreds or thousands of ballots, I'm pretty sure that they can create ballots pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What do
And
you think, John?
what I am afraid of is people not wanting to vote. If that were to happen, I didn't even consider that as a possibility. But if that were to happen, would people want to vote again, considering how they mistrust the system now?
The trust is shot.
Yeah.
What do you think, John?
Well, I'm gonna be more of the doom and gloom guy, because I think this is done. I mean, you put yourself in the shoes of the judge. Are you going to be the one who sets America on fire? You know what I mean? Because if this whole thing gets redone, all right, imagine look at what's been happening since the summer, all right? Cities on fire. Imagine what happens if after Fox, which is going to be the ones to do it, say that Joe Biden is the projected winner. And then the court say, wait, not really. And they do the same thing they pulled off in 2000 with Al Gore. This thing is going to get very ugly and very violent. And if you're the person who has to decide that, you don't want that to be you. So I think that is the same thing that a lot of the Republicans, the Republican leadership is afraid of, and they don't want to be in bad terms with the new boss. They don't want to stick their neck out and put their careers in jeopardy. So they might just say, Trump should concede, and I think that's what's going to end up happening.
You have a point there. I mean, look at Justice Roberts. He doesn't even read. It's as if he's gone illiterate since he was appointed. He essentially chooses whatever the New York Times tells him to.
Wow.
It's the same reason why they were trying to recuse Amy Coney Barrett. They told her that if it comes to a Supreme Court decision, would you recuse yourself? From basically choosing. They were setting us up for this. I don't think. Look, man, and I empathize with them. I've heard stories of judges getting death threats. It's not beyond the realm. Look, if I'm the judge and they tell me you have to either pick redoing the election somehow, or recounting, or doing something like that, right? Or just giving it to Biden, which is the easy path, and it's probably going to be the most peaceful way to do it. And they have been threatening you or your family. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I could understand that, but I also think, well, I'm hoping there's some sort of integrity with the judges, but at the same time, I do understand the point of Amy Coney Barrett has 7 kids, and if there is some sort of threat to her family, I mean, I understand why she would, take the easy route, as you put it. But I'm hoping they're actually gonna hold.
And people are gonna, their minds are going to explode. I mean, imagine Fox telling them, Joe Biden is the winner, and then nope, the court says no, he's not. Let's do this again. It's just gonna mess with people's minds. So this is done. My solution is we split up. We create a new country, just in Florida, and we start over.
Man, you say that, but like as a joke, maybe. But my goodness, like whatever happens, if people lose faith any more than they already have in the institutions of the country, there are dark days ahead. Whatever happens, they need to, in as transparent a way as possible, instill some faith in the American people that this is all above board. Because you're exactly right, John. It's been a powder keg for years now, and that's been going off here and there in Democrat cities. Imagine now if it started going off in Republican cities as well.
If we were to actually fix this, as opposed to just hitting the reset button and starting over, I would say that voting needs to become a federal affair. You know what I mean? It should not be let out to the states anymore. There needs to be some kind of federal agency, and I believe in federal governments. I think government should be small, and people should be able to decide which route the state goes. But I mean, this is insane. This is crazy. This is really unorganized. Everybody's laughing at us in the world. We're the laughing stock. It's dysfunctional. It's just not working. So this needs to be overseen by some kind of federal agency somehow, if we are to supposedly solve the problem with the voting.
We just don't understand it. We're like, how are there states where you don't need voter ID? How are there states where people are just mailing out ballots like pamphlets? And,
hey, guess what? Guess what you need at the DNC?
What's that?
The Democratic National Committee. You need voter ID. They require voter ID inside the DNC, where they're fighting to have it not in our general elections.
Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned something kind of ironic there. If people, Michael, if people lose faith in the institutions, well, funny, the people who want to subvert the institutions, which is essentially most what we're liberals who are duped into being leftists, and the leftists and our a lot of our elected officials, they want to change, tear down, reimagine all these institutions. Yet the corruptions they've introduced make us lose faith in those institutions. They win either way.
Exactly.
The only way we win is if we reinforce the institutions as they actually are. But if they've gotten Amy or whatever her name, ACB, Coney Barrett, I think, if they've gotten Amy Coney Barrett, for which there's no actual legal precedent to recuse herself, and that she was not required by the nature of the case. It is not a parallel to the case they cited, where the judge was previously a party to the case. That's the one they cited. She was never a party to the case. If by getting her to get herself out of the way, and they duped her, I can't believe she fell for it. This is part of the corrupting the institution so that the institution cannot be used to protect itself.
Yeah.
It's heavy, heavy stuff. We are going to have to end it there, though, because we're up to the hour, and I have lots of drawing I need to get done today. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on.
For sure.
Again,
Nice talking to all you guys.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Always great to talk to you. It's even though in these crazy times.
I know.
I can't believe we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't expect this to be the next time we spoke, to have something going on like this. I thought it was going to be a light conversation about comic books, even though I'm not a comic book person, but I wanted to learn.
I would love to invite you on my channel, because I have a political show called Mass John, and we rant and we talk about that. And I think I'm pretty knowledgeable of the whole Venezuelan situation, but I would love for you to break it down better for us.
Sure.
So I would I'll follow you on Twitter and just maybe invite you, and anytime you can, just please come over.
Yeah, 100%. And someone said, see you on TikTok. I just wanted to answer to that person, Anthony Figaro. I don't use TikTok as much, so try to find me on Instagram or YouTube. I have a YouTube channel now.
Yeah, so I've put I don't know, I didn't put your Instagram on there, but I'll edit the video and I'll put your Instagram down there in the description. But I've got your YouTube video, YouTube channel and Twitter account there in the description for anyone who wants to follow Elizabeth. Thanks again for coming on. Thanks John and Carla for joining us too.
Thank you, Michael.
Always a pleasure to hang with you guys. Christian and Blue, or Poland for the people who know you by that name. There's people who are always confused when you come on.
Yep.
With your many different names. And
that's what happens when you come into this world organically.
So, and thank you to the chat. You guys have been amazing. I didn't really know, how this would go. This is so fresh and raw right now, and so political, and but it's been great to see you all here and give all your comments and stuff like that. It's been really cool to see. All right, it's my day off tomorrow. I'm going to be drawing now until. I'm just going to be going on a tear now. So I will see you the day after. We'll be back for another week of fun and shows and all that sort of good stuff. And we'll see you then. All right. Bye.
Cheers.